Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear brothers and sisters. Welcome back to part 2 of this special edition of Real Talk. Today, as I said earlier on, we're talking about both water safety as well. I said fire because I've got a fire person here with me, and also the use of the countryside and the benefits of the countryside. So can we start first with the water safety stuff? Obviously, Mohammed, you've been here on a number of occasions. As I said in the introduction, we've had a number of tragic cases happening, both within our, in our community as well as other communities as well. And I think maybe one of the issues we talked about in the past has been that our parents don't really understand the value of swimming lessons and things like that. We find that more and more of our kids are not sort of proficient in swimming. I mean, that's one of the issues we talked about. But just to focus on water safety, I mean, summer months are coming up, and now people will be going out with their children, into the Lake District and other parts of the country, in the countryside as well, where there are streams and rivers and lakes, etc. What are the prime issues that people need to be aware of when they're planning to go out to some of these amazing, wonderful places?
And you're right. There's some really beautiful, amazing places, alhamdulillah, across wherever you go, the Lake District, the Yorkshire Dales, the Peak District, the Brecon Beacons. There's some beautiful waterfalls. And I think it's understanding where you're going and why you're going there, and being familiar with the water. At the moment, the water, because it's been so dry for the last couple of months, is quite low. But the lakes and some of the rivers are still high. So they're beautiful, but they also get cold, and also some of the water flows fast, and the undercurrents both in the lakes and the rivers. So be familiar, but also I think it's really important for our parents and elders to make sure that they start to teach their kids to learn to swim at a very early age, and make sure they can swim confidently and comfortably, because 80 to 90% of Asians and African communities do not swim or cannot swim.
80 to 90%?
80 to 90%, yeah.
I mean, I've seen more and more parents now
Yeah.
taking their kids to swimming lessons,
Yeah.
but than
And the
day
water
before.
in this country is very different to the water in countries like Dubai or the Caribbean.
Oh,
or
vast
somewhere,
difference, yeah.
Vast difference. So it's also understanding that, and a swimming pool is very different to open water. So it's understanding the difference between, and open water swimming is now very popular for people to go out. I was out volunteering a couple of weeks ago, and with this older woman, and she said, "Oh right, finished volunteering, I'm going to go for a swim now in Rydal water." Yeah, so she bought all her gear and she was going out for a swim, but it's being prepared, having the right gear, having a wetsuit or a dry suit, having a float, so you're prepared for the water, and having a dry robe, so you can come out of the water and warm up. And if you're prepared for it, there's no problem in swimming. But also look at the signs. There will be local signs. So for example, at the moment, parts of Derwentwater, they're discouraging people to swim because there's some algae
this
there.
is in the Lake District,
This is the
Derwentwater,
Lake District, yeah. There's some
Loved
algae.
the place. I stayed there for a week.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
It's beautiful.
Actually, twice I stayed there.
I've just driven through parts of the Lake District and the Yorkshire Dales and Devil's Bridge. Beautiful area. All people around Devil's Bridge, because it's a popular spot, but it's also a popular spot for accidents as well in the water.
Right.
So again, it's being familiar and aware of what your surroundings are, and being confident if you are. And I'm sure Sabaz will talk about some of the water safety issues, but it's knowing where you're going, knowing what your abilities are, so you're confident in the water.
If you are taking yourself or your children there, what are the key things you should take with you to make sure? Like you said, the kit, the proper kit.
So making sure, particularly because it's cold, so outdoor temperature may be 25, 30 degrees, but in the water it's about 7 degrees or less.
Right.
So there's a huge difference between the temperature that's outside that you're enjoying and what the temperature in the water is. So you may need a wetsuit or something. If you're going, particularly a lot of paddle boards and so on are very familiar and popular now. So again, making sure you have a tie and a float that can identify.
This is what you see when you see people swimming. There's something.
That's right, yeah, hanging
it
behind
looks
an
like,
orange thing, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's tied onto your ankle, which again gives you a bit of flotation. Again, using a buoyancy aid if you need to. But if you're a confident swimmer, again, and you're familiar with open water swimming, then it's quite easy and familiar for you. But again, having a towel and something to get into dry afterwards, because what you don't want to get into is not have a towel to dry yourself up. Because again, you then come out of the water, you start shivering, when you start getting cold.
No matter how hot it is.
No matter how hot it is, because
Right.
you've just come out of cold water. So just again, making sure you can dry off, or there are these now massive dry robes, which are
Right.
toweled robes, which you can just put on to dry yourself out and warm yourself up again.
Right.
Make sure you have a hot drink around with you as well, because that helps as well to sort of have a hot squash or hot coffee or tea. Again, warms your body up because you've come out of a cold water into the hot again.
Right. Okay. I mean, we have a video.
Yeah.
And we played it last time. I think you were here
Yeah.
as well. So I mean, as soon as we have the video ready, I'll sort of
Please bring it in.
the video is ready. So let's show that video again, just to remind people, what they need to be aware of when they go to the Lake District or to any of the rivers, any of the lakes, the beauty spots, because every beauty spot has some water feature there. So make sure that you go there, you enjoy it. But this hopefully will be something that will make you think carefully, that you look after yourself and members of your family.
We love Cumbria and its beautiful landscape.
And we know with the warm weather, more people will be out to enjoy open water.
We know spending time around our rivers and lakes can be done safely, but it is also a dangerous place. Water can and does kill.
We want you to enjoy Cumbria, but to do so safely. Water can kill, so we need to spread the water safety messages as far as we can.
Keep an eye out for others around you. Many of our waters are isolated. We need to be sensible.
Rivers, lake, reservoir may sometimes look inviting, but often they will have hidden underwater dangers, which will put you at risk. Unpredictable current can pull even the strongest swimmers below the surface.
As hot as it is on a day like today, the water can still be freezing cold, which can lead to something called cold water shock.
If you ever get into trouble, remember, float to live. You should fight the urge to panic. Lean back, extend your legs, and float on your back like a starfish until you get your breathing under control.
If you find yourself in an emergency situation or you spot somebody else in trouble in the water, call 999 or 112. If you're by the coast, ask for the Coast Guard, or if you're inland, ask for the fire service.
Be safe, be water aware.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. You can see that video, and that video tells you what you should be aware of, and in case you get into difficulty, what you should be doing. Now, and this is something that I would like every parent, every member of the family who is thinking of going away during the summer break, whether it's the weekend or during school holidays, or you're having your holiday with just the husband and wife and the family members, that you should be aware of some of the very key important things that lurks around there that you need to avoid as well. So Mohammed, I mean, obviously that video we showed that last time you were here today as well. Is this message getting through to people? I mean, you work closely with a lot of people as well, don't you?
It is getting through, but I think it's always important to remind people of
Oh,
the
yes,
message.
definitely.
Yeah, it is getting through, and because more and more people are coming out.
Right.
I've been out and about over the last 2 or 3 weeks over Easter, and there's been so many people from all different communities around the Lake District, around the Yorkshire Dales. I've been to both areas, so it is busy, even Northumberland along Hadrian's Wall. So there are people coming out, and the more and more you can remind people of the messages, at least they're aware of what to do and how to enjoy the countryside, but also what to be aware of as well if they get into difficulty.
I mean, obviously, water is one thing. And there are people when they go out to the lakes, or to not just the Lake District, but if they go to other places, they want to take a barbecue with them. Now, obviously, we have the ideal person here with us, right? Shabaz Hussain Shah, working for the fire service. Well, we were supposed to go out yesterday as a family, meet at a place called Abbey something in
Norton
Nottingham.
Abbey.
In Ash Abbey or something like that. I've never been there, but it looks absolutely amazing. And one of the questions was, we're going to bring food there. So somebody said, can we take a barbecue to heat it up? So I sent a message saying, no, barbecues are banned. Now, we see a lot of people wanting to take barbecues.
Yes.
But, I mean, obviously, those are banned, I presume, in most areas?
We discourage having barbecues in the open countryside simply because of that's all it takes is that little spark, that little ember that someone hasn't been able to put out to start a huge fire, and this is where we end up with these wildfires that then carry on for days, weeks, even months. I mean, Winter Hill a few years ago, we were up there for 6 to 8 weeks.
Yes.
And the massive resource involved in trying to tackle those fires, you start to think, what was the protection?
They're not in the middle of city centres or
no,
built-up areas like
no.
LA last year,
yeah,
where hundreds and hundreds of homes were burnt.
That's right.
But they had fire hydrants around there.
Yeah.
They had water source over there.
Yeah.
In the countryside, you don't have that source availability.
You don't have that availability of water, and it ends up manpower, basically 10, 20 pumps, 50, 100 firefighters with essentially what is a beater. It's a stick with it's like a plastic square at the end of it, just a piece of plastic, flexible plastic, and you're absolutely beating the fire back and trying to stop that flame front. And this is what we end up having to deal with, all because of that that carelessly discarded cigarette from just having that disposable barbecue, but then not putting it out properly before they leave. All it takes is that spark, and you can end up damaging a whole forest area, the wildlife that gets affected. We're talking about a recovery that's going to take generations, and this is where we really need to look after our countryside and value it, and this means respecting it by making sure that we're safe. So although we discourage having barbecues in these beautiful areas, these areas of natural beauty, if you are going to insist on cooking food in these areas, then please do responsibly and safely, because the implications are huge. They really are.
Well, as I say, in some places I know that they've said no barbecues whatsoever.
Yeah.
Because
and they will do, quite rightly so, and please respect where those bans are and where they completely discourage you from doing that. Please respect those instructions that are given to you, because it's just not worth it. It'll be a particularly dry area. The vegetation that's involved, there will be a really strong reason for why they're completely banning barbecues in those areas.
I was thinking of taking a butane gas cooker. It'll be easier and quicker and much more safer.
It probably will be, but again, even then, I would say really be safe on where you place and locate it, and make sure that there's nothing. What
are the main challenges for you as a fire person? What are the main challenges that you find in your job that maybe our people not really aware of? What are the factors that you feel
I think
we're not aware of and we need to be mindful of?
Yeah, no, I think I sometimes think that we have like a laissez-faire attitude. We say whatever God wills. But we also.
But that doesn't allow you to just do whatever you want. Allah says very carefully.
We need to.
You have a responsibility to make sure that you look. And I've said this on my program many times. One of the most important responsibility of a Muslim person is not just after looking after the fellow human beings, but also the environment that Allah has given us and bestowed upon us.
We have a responsibility to ourselves and to our families. Simple things like we provide home fire safety checks up and down the country. Every fire and rescue service provides free home fire safety checks where we enter your homes, we look at the risks within your home, and then we would fit smoke alarms free of charge within that property in the appropriate areas.
Or do you just give them out?
No, we would fit them ourselves. Would fit them ourselves, and yet we'll be knocking on families' doors and they'll be refusing for us to even enter. Maybe they just don't understand our role within the community. We're there to protect you. We are there to make sure you are safe, and this is where we end up with those house fires, where we end up with families actually trapped. Rather than that early warning, where the whole point of that smoke alarm is, I know we're digressing from the topic where we're discussing today, but it's really important. It is really important. That smoke alarm is it
could be the lifesaver.
Exactly, is that nose that is awake, and those sensors that are awake when you are not. Everyone thinks that when there's a fire they are going to get up. They are not going to get up. That smoke, that carbon monoxide will not let you get up. You will go even deeper into that sleep. And so the whole point of that alarm is to wake you up, so that to tell you that there's smoke in the house. You are to gather your family, and you should be able to in theory, get your family out in time before the fire even reaches any major part of your home. Your exit route should be clear.
If it happens at night, people are sleeping upstairs.
Yes, that's right.
So the fire alarm should wake you up in that case?
And that's the most important smoke alarm. It's the one at the top of the stairs. It's not the one next to the kitchen or the... And the other likely place is the kitchen, obviously. But on every layer, every floor of your property, you should have a smoke alarm. So there should be one downstairs.
I don't have one upstairs.
There should be one up. The upstairs one is the most important one.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. It's the most important one.
No,
but
I didn't realize that.
I think people don't realize our roles really. You know, we're not just there to fight fires. You know, we attend just as many road traffic collisions where we're having to cut people out of vehicles, but then also swift water rescue. You know, I know that you've just seen in the little infomercial that you've seen, dial 999. And we are swift water specialists. I'm a swift water rescue technician for the last 13 years now. Right. That's what my station specialises in. And so we would go to these places where we have fast flowing water, and if someone has got into difficulty in those areas, it'll be our job to get them out and try to do that live rescue. In those areas.
So you must be an incredibly fast swimmer then.
It's not. You know what? It's more of a technique to be able to swim in that water. If you imagine, if you have ever watched carefully ducks swimming across water, you will see that they come at a certain angle and they seem to glide across the water. And it's that angle, it's that fairy angle that you need when you have fast flowing water coming down, that you swim in a certain way that it allows you to get to a certain place or get across that actual water. But we have various techniques that we use. But just for me to get into that water, I know that Mohammed was alluding to the kind of temperatures. Even in the summer months, you're talking barely above single digits temperatures.
Oh, the water is very cold.
It's really, really cold. Yeah. For me to get into that water, I would be wearing a woolly bear, a dry suit, a flotation device on my chest, a helmet, especially when I'm going in fast water, armoured boots, and only then would I get into that water.
Don't you sink down there?
No.
So with all that stuff, you'd probably sink, wouldn't you?
It is heavy. It is. But it's that cold water, and this is what I came to talk about today, which was the mechanisms of cold water shock. Our communities need to understand that. If you fall into the water, or even when you get into the water, that first 0 to a couple of minutes, you can end up in a situation where you suddenly experience a gasp, where it's a reflex, and if you're in any depth of water, it will make you take the water into your lungs, and suddenly you are in real trouble because you're starting to drown, and it's not something that you can control. That gasp will come because of, I mean, have you ever been in a cold shower where you go into the shower and suddenly it makes you gasp?
I mean, you go into a swimming pool,
and
as soon as you enter, you go in there and go, oh my God, what am I doing here?
Exactly.
It's a shock.
And this is what happens when people get into the water. And you have to, and I know it's difficult, but people need to understand that they need to resist that temptation. They need to sort of don't fight it, don't try to swim, because all you're going to do is lose energy. Is to get onto their backs, spread their arms and legs, to try to float, and hopefully when that reflex disappears, that's when hopefully you've got that sense of trying to get to shore or get someone to help you in that situation. If you try to fight it, you will just lose energy, and you will end up drowning in the water. But the next aspect of things is that your heart is racing. Your blood pressure goes through the roof, and you are liable for a heart attack. And again, I'm not trying to scare people about going into the water, but as Mohammed said, get into a dry suit, get into clothing that is going to give you some protection from those temperatures. Have a flotation device, so that you see what happens is your body tries to protect itself. So all your blood that's at your extremities, so your arms, your hands, your legs, if you spend any time in the water, slowly but surely, your core temperature is going to drop, and that means that your body's going to try and protect itself, so it will draw all the blood from your extremities to protect your internal organs.
Right.
And when that happens, suddenly you lose coordination.
Right. You can't, no movement.
And ironically, it's the strong swimmers that end up in the most trouble.
You're
Because they're confident to head out further. They've got the confidence to think, I can make that distance, or I can swim out there and I'm going to be fine. I'm a strong swimmer. And ironically, those are the ones that get into trouble. And this is why I will say, be careful. As your temperature starts to drop, there used to be a really famous swimmer called Duncan Goodhue. You might remember him.
Olympic champion.
Bold fella.
Olympic champion, yes.
They did a study with him where they put him into a Perspex tank, and they had water flowing at a certain speed where he was swimming in that tank. He was actually static, but he was having to swim against the current. And the temperature was at the average of what it would be in a lake or a river. And after a few minutes, you can visibly see where his normal horizontal, very efficient swimming technique suddenly drop. His legs are starting to droop down. His legs are starting to fall down, and suddenly there's more drag. He's finding it more difficult to actually swim in that water. And this is what happens. Suddenly, your strength, your endurance leaves your arms and legs, and you start to get into trouble.
No matter how strong you think you are,
yeah,
the water is always stronger than you.
Always stronger than you. And as your core temperature drops to around 35 degrees, you are going to get into trouble. And this is where we would say the only thing that you could do in that circumstance is to lie on your back and try and float until hopefully some help can come to you.
So, I mean, the message is obviously, as we get into the summer months, the temptation is going to be there for many people to get into their swimming trunks or whatever it is, so jump into the water. But then again, people don't realize how deep the water is in some places, do they? No. They think, they can go to Dubai and they can walk for 10, 15 yards and they're fine, because, there's all that sand underneath there. But, they could go 5 yards here or even 2 yards, and there's a shallow shelf, isn't there?
Yeah, and some places you can walk 10 or 15, 20 meters because it's a shallow sort of shore area. But then the shelves really do drop.
Right.
And then literally as you walk out, you could just lose your footing and go straight in. And then there are other shelves as you go along. So yeah, it is. And some of the lakes are very, very deep. And also some of the pools on the rivers, and you'll find that some of them may be sort of a couple of meters, some maybe even deeper. They call them now, sort of, particularly the social media influencers call them infinity pools, where you can go sort of halfway up a hill in a pool which overlooks the whole valley.
You have them on posh hotels.
Yeah. Right. And it's one of those sort of, people will search them out. But again, do your research, because sometimes people will look at them on Instagram or TikTok. Oh, I want to go there, not realizing you have a 2-hour walk in and then a 2-hour walk out. So they're not prepared for the walk. They think, oh right, this is just here because somebody's put down it's in this place. So they sort of go there, park up, and they say, all right, okay. And you tell them, all right, it's an hour and a half walk away. Oh, right, okay, I didn't realize it was 1.5 hours walk away. So yeah, a lot of times, whether it's water or going out into the countryside, do your research of where you're going, what you can do, what you can't do. So you're familiar with the area, what you can do, how long it's going to take, so you're prepared for it. You might need to take water. I've seen people coming in with literally a half a litre bottle of water. And
this is to prevent dehydration.
Yeah, and that's not going to be enough, particularly in hot weather that's been for the last few days. You will need, if you're out for the whole day, you'll need more than that.
It is all about preparation, isn't it? But even with coming on to these bodies of water, it might look really inviting
I was
at
just
the top.
Say, yeah.
But you don't know that that silted area might have that suction where it actually it's like quicksand.
Right.
It actually sucks you in where you can't lift your legs out of it.
Right,
it could be a situation where you have some bodies of water where there's there's people have dumped things, you know, shopping trolleys and spikes, and you don't know what's in the water. That's why we wear armored boots when we actually go into the water, because we don't know what we're going to encounter. So
I was wondering why would you wear armored
because when I say armored, it's got like a metal plate underneath, or you know, something to something really substantial to stop anything injuring our feet. You know, you have to be careful. You have to be careful.
Well, obviously the message, you know, strong and clear is that, you know, enjoy the water, but make sure you understand the dangers that lurk. Sometimes, as Shabazz says, you know, well, they say still waters run deep, or something like that, isn't there? I forgot. But yeah, it may look absolutely beautiful, tranquil, you know, something that, you know, tempts you to go in there, but unless you really understand what is happening, and as Shabazz and Muhammad says, undercurrents there, you know, people think, you know, that at the top everything's fine, but there could be huge undercurrents at the bottom, and you could be a very, you know, competent swimmer, but it would drag you away, couldn't it? So I mean, those are the you know, very important messages that people need to take away. And apart from the fire service, there's a mountain rescue service as well, isn't there?
Yeah,
that's right.
But if anybody gets into trouble, you know, please, you know, and it's happened many times where somebody's got into trouble, person watching from the shore thinks, okay, I'll go and try and rescue the person, and the actual person who originally got into trouble comes out, but the one who goes to rescue them loses their life.
It's not just that. You see, what happens is when someone's panicking in the water and somebody else goes in, again, it's a reflex. They will actually push them down in the water. They will grab at them. It's that survival instinct where they end up drowning the person that's trying to save them.
Right.
And it's really, it can get into a really bad situation where you get a cascade of people trying to help, and all of them end up in trouble in the actual water.
So what's happened in a few places now is particularly popular swim spots or river spots is the fire service in partnership with other organisations have put rescue poles on.
Right.
So there'll be water safety boards where you ring 999 and they'll give you a code, like defibrillators where they give you a code. So you ring 999, they'll give you a code to get the pole, so you can put the pole out to try and get people in rather than you going in.
And throw bags.
Or throw bags.
Yeah.
In some cases they have throw bags. So I saw one last week in Acegarth which just had a pole. Some places have throw bags. It depends on...
So what is a throw bag? Can you just explain?
It's usually a 20 to 25 metre line. Anything bigger than that really is going to be difficult to throw to someone. And you would literally, it's a rope in a bag basically, and you would get hold of the rope and using the weight of the bag with the rope inside, try to, and it's best, you're going to be much more accurate with the underarm throw. Throw out that line to the person. Sometimes it's better if it slightly goes past them so that they can reach and grab it. But sometimes if they're too cold, they might not even have the strength to actually grab the line.
Yeah,
It can get to that sort of stage. But that is the advice that we would give.
So this is like the old buoyancy tires that tubes we used to see, is it?
Yeah, in some places they still have the tubes, but now they have the pole. So again, because there are normally lots of people there, they can use that long pole to try and reach out to somebody.
And a lot of people will be familiar with it, sort of round tubes, you know, dotted around the places. Okay, I mean, Shabazz, we need to bring you back some other time and sort of talk more about some of these issues.
No problem.
And you know, because certainly what you said about the fire alarm in the house. I mean, as I say, I've got one downstairs, which is fine. I don't have one upstairs. And I know my wife mentioned to me the other day that we should probably have one of those little foam sort of fire extinguishers, in the kitchen, in the house as well.
The biggest thing that you can have to protect yourself in your home is to make sure that smoke alarm is working. Test it once a month. It will sound 5 or 6 times and go quiet and reset itself. They're all designed to do that. In your kitchen, a smoke alarm isn't going to work because it's going to be a nuisance. If you want to place anything in there, it will be a heat detector. So that would detect a rapid rise in temperature. So if there was a fire where you know, you're cooking something and it's caught, it would detect that, and hopefully it would alert you to that. The biggest thing for our Asian community in terms of risk for our families is cooking with oil.
Well, yeah, and 80% of our food is cooked in oil.
And what our community doesn't realise is that, or are unaware of, is as soon as someone sees flames, they think it's water that they should be putting on there. With oil, that's the worst thing you can do, because that's going to expand 1,700 times and create a massive fireball. And
so a fire blanket
it's going to make things so much more worse. Our advice in those circumstances are, if they see it on fire, is look, shut the door, get your family out. That's your priority. Your children, your family members, get them out. Dial 999 and get us to deal with it. You know, a kitchen can be replaced. A person cannot.
Life cannot.
And so, but if it's small enough and it's just caught, yes, knock off the gas of the electric. If there's a lid, try to place it on there, but be careful about not burning your hands. Do not move it. Wherever you will lift, oil burns are some of the worst things that you can get. Wherever you just spread the fire, and you'll end up causing severe burns, life-changing injuries. And so just place a lid on it if you can, and just leave it off, and still call us. Still call us so that we remove it from your property, not yourselves.
And if, as somebody said, fire blanket, where you can just throw something.
You can
if you have one,
just to try and smother it.
If you have one to smother the fire, I mean, that's very important advice, and I didn't realize that, you can have heat sort of monitors as well. So yeah, it's something that we need to be mindful of, and obviously I'm going to start looking at that as well at my house as well, because it's the number of people within our community we've lost lives in fires is phenomenal.
It is.
It
is.
Mohammed, can we obviously, you are a very sort of country-file person. I think probably the most Asian country-file person I've ever come across in my life. And the country-file is your lifeline. Everything you do. You do a lot of sort of Islamic awareness courses in the countryside. You have retreats there as well. And you have a sort of action. In fact, one of my friends was asking, whether we can do a retreat, in Islamic retreat in the Lake District. I said, I'm sure I know a man who probably can arrange it. But I mean, people enjoy the countryside, but they need to respect it and they need to value it. As I said, Islam commands us to do that. When you see people coming in, what are the issues that you find difficult to comprehend? That why are they behaving this way?
I think generally people come in and enjoy the countryside. Or the
I'm talking about Upnelo. Let's not beat around the bush. Let's be absolutely brutally honest. We are not the best people when it comes to the environment.
Yes and no. Because I think that there are people who look after it, and there are other people who may need to learn and there's an element of education here about how people look after the countryside and what they do and where they go. And I think that's the education side is really important for people to understand what's happening to the countryside at the moment, because it is deteriorating. Is nature depleted in this country, probably the worst country across the world in terms of in terms of what's going on. And there's a lot of effort being with how do we recover the nature that's actually, because it affects the whole climate. The weather changes we're seeing at the moment in terms of heavy rain, snow, heat and stuff, that's all to do with that climate change and environment and what's happening to the environment.
Except for Mr. Trump, everybody was accepts.
And also the floodings we're seeing, the flash floods and so on, is because of we've taken down all the trees. So at the moment there's a huge target of planting so many millions of trees around the country, because what trees do is create those roots and stop and takes in the water before it gets into the river, and rewilding the rivers. So rather than making the rivers straight, so winding them around. So basically there's more of a water flow rather than gushing straight down into the nearest city or town. So I think for us when we go out is think about don't leave rubbish around. Also where you're walking, where you're going. So think about what you're going to do.
We are the worst at rubbish. I mean, if you go into an Asian area, you can see which is an Asian area and which is not non-Asian area.
So I think it's...
Upnelo are the worst.
So they cause fires as well. You know, the clear plastics get magnified from the sun and act like a magnifying and focal point, and then you'll get a fire that started from a plastic bag.
So really think about what you're doing, where you're going, what you're taking, who's going with you. Because again, when you're going somewhere, walk on a footpath. Don't just walk in a field, because it could be private land, a farmer's land, which is private. Some parts of it are open, so you can go anywhere. but think about where you're walking so you're not affecting the livestock.
Mm.
That particularly at the moment, if you go out, there's sheep and lambs,
Mm.
which have just been born in the last month or so. So they're quite nervous, same with calves and stuff. So think about where you're going, what you're doing.
Mm.
But really go out and enjoy the countryside, because it's there for us all to enjoy. But look after it.
As you want to have, yeah. I mean, I think this point, Muhammad made this point last time he was here as well, and I made that point as well, and the other guest who was here made that point. Everyone loves to take themselves and their families and their children in particular to the countryside, you know, and, you know, you go to the Lake District or the, you know, I mean, if you live in West Yorkshire, you're blessed with so many sort of surrounding areas where people can go and enjoy the countryside. However, there are responsibilities that you need to be aware of, as you've just said.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's also sort of go out. Like we talked about barbecues earlier on. There are a range of spots where you can barbecue.
Right.
So find those, do your research and find those spots where you can barbecue, so you can go there and barbecue safely without any risk of fire or anything.
Yeah.
So look at that research rather than thinking, oh, I'll just go there and do
Do
it.
we have picnic areas you can book in advance, for example?
Like, yeah, some places you can.
Right.
So I know one organisation just before Eid were advertising, please come and book a space for barbecue in our area, right next to the river, and they have a whole range of spots for barbecue.
So I remember years and years ago, 3 families, all neighbours, we all went to Coniston Water.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just across the water was a sort of place where you could have, there's tables, picnic tables there, there's a washroom there, everything's available there.
Yeah.
So, you know, we just parked up there, you know, we enjoyed that.
No, there's lots of picnic areas, barbecue, some places will have barbecue areas, cafes, washrooms, tea rooms. So yes, there's lots of places. What's interesting is research has shown most people who go to the countryside only go about 50 metres from the car park.
Right.
I think one of the things we need to do, as we mentioned earlier on, there's a lot of health benefits of going outdoors. So, and there are lots of routes now, which are particularly for older people or people with kids and prams and stuff, where you can go for a walk of 1 or 2 miles, which are reasonably flat, which we don't need climbing over
need to find
gates and
those.
stuff. And there's lots of them in the Peak District, in the Lake District, in the Yorkshire Dales. So people of all abilities can go out and walk. And we know fresh air and exercise does a lot for your health. But also
especially mental health.
And mental health as well.
Mental health is important.
And also spiritually, and because particularly being in nature and just sort of being in that beauty that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created for us, to enjoy that. But also I think there's an element now I think we need to think about is giving back to nature as well.
Right.
Is how we look after, how we plant trees. So a group of us went out, as you mentioned somebody earlier on, we went out and made some tree gardens and planted about 80 trees a few weekends ago. Yeah, and again, that's Sadaqah Jariya.
Oh,
so
definitely.
So think about those sort of things that we can do. And then 2 weeks ago, I was repairing a footpath because the people have been taking a shortcut. So it's about, again, how we sort of, again, we encourage people to make sure they stay on the footpath.
So repairing the damage that
repairing the damage that people are doing, because people were sort of looking down and taking a shortcut straight down rather than taking the footpath that slightly winds down. So we're making a footpath more obvious and digging it out. Again, that's hard work, but it needs to be done to make sure that people stay on the footpath and conserve the countryside for the future generation. Because I want my grandkids, and I'm sure you want your grandkids and great-grandkids, and we all do to enjoy that same countryside. So also please give back and look at the trees and stuff, but also listen to the birds singing when you go out.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And I suggest a really good app, Merlin app, which is really good. You can just put it there. If you don't know your bird sounds, you put it there and it'll listen to the birds. It will tell you what birds are singing at that time.
Oh, right.
Even do it at your home in the morning. I wake up in the morning and I know in my house when I wake up, I can hear the birds singing at Fajr time. So you can just put the app there and work out, what's the birds are singing at the moment.
Right.
So you can sort of really understand
you
what's
live
happening.
you live in an area which is sort of absolute countryside. You have tons of nature.
But even the cities, you can have those birds coming out as well. But I think it's really connecting with nature to enjoy that.
Yeah.
And
I hear bird songs in the morning in my bedroom every day. And one of the first things I do is when I get up in the morning, I open the curtains. When I see the sun, the first word that comes out of my mind is Subhanallah. Because, you know, you're blessed again with a lovely day. You're blessed because Allah has kept you alive and well. And secondly, He's blessed you with a beautiful day as well. And so, Muhammad, you know, obviously, people want to get in touch with you, for example, or for you, Shabazz. What's the best way to do so?
Just find me on social media.
Right, which is what I'm not on. Shabazz, obviously you work for the fire service.
I do.
They might not be able to get to you directly.
But they can go on to Lancashire Fire and Rescue Services website or their equivalent Fire and Rescue Services website, and they will give you all the wealth of information that I've already provided you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Mohammed. Thank you, Shabazz, for coming across. Very important message, I hope, that has sunk in with people, because we will see, unfortunately, tragedies. Don't want to see that, but I know people forget. I hope you enjoy the program. Inshallah, I'll see you next week. Again, we'll have a very important topical discussion about what is happening in the world at the moment. Inshallah, take care, look after yourself. May Allah be with you. Make du'as for us and everybody else here. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam.
Assalamu alaikum.